Thank you for coming. This is our second brain retrain. Great to have you here, Caroline. And anyone that is doing this in the future, thank you for being here. I'm really excited. I will put these Zooms up under a section anyway, so you'll be able to go back and rewatch them. So yeah, great to have you here. So today's retrain is retraining how we think about life and how we think about how we get what we desire. Just checking the comments here to see if anyone's trying to get in. Okay, there's 10 screens open. What can you see now, hun? Can you just see one screen? Can you just answer me, Caroline? I'm having a cup of tea while I do this because this is meant to be a relaxed thing. So just checking that. Is it okay now? Okay, so hopefully you're just seeing this screen now. You're not seeing the Facebook screen. So here we come back again. So why we don't always get what we want? We work really, really hard, don't we? We can overwork, we can push, we can hustle, we can do all those things. We've got a goal, we've got something we really desire, and we're working really hard at it. Or we've laid out our plan for the year about what we're going to do in our business or what we're going to do with our health or our bodies. And we don't quite get there. And it's sort of on the edge of, you know, it feels like you're just about there all the time, but you don't quite make it. Or it's years of you've been trying to get there. And I want to talk about two different reasons why this could be happening, because this will give you some insight and shift your paradigms in thinking and give you some new distinctions about how the brain works and about how we work as an energetic being, why we don't always get what we want. Now look at this lovely girl here. She's got lots of ideas. She's being a bit quizzical, but she might not quite have created them yet. Have a cup of tea while you join me. Relax, enjoy yourself. Sit back. Probably only be 20 minutes, not even that. Okay, so we think if we desire something bad enough, and that's consciously going, I really want to get a new job, or I really want to lose weight, or I really want my business to be successful, I really want to get a great relationship with someone, that it will happen, okay? And then we can think that consciously and then start to work really hard towards something like setting goals, like I said, putting a plan in place, getting a coach. Like I've had coaches from the last 2 years with my business, but you don't quite get there. You could be doing prayer, you could be doing affirmations, you could be journaling, you could be using lots of different tools, but you're not quite there yet. How do you feel about that? Because I know for me in my own past, that can be really, really frustrating and really tiring, reaching for something that hasn't quite shown up. And you're working really hard and you're consciously working, really consciously making plans, doing everything you've been told to do, following your coaching from a business coach, whatever that is, and it's not showing up. Let me give you a couple of reasons why that could be. I'm sorry, girlfriend, to dump this on you, but I want you to know the truth of how we really create and why it might not be showing up. It's not from our conscious mind that we're creating most of the time. Sometimes it is. We're like, okay, I'm going to go and buy a bottle of milk. That's consciously what we've thought, and we've gone down the road and we've bought a bottle of milk. But I'm talking about these deep, deep desires and wants. It's not often from our conscious mind that we are truly creating, my friend. Guess what? And if you worked with me before, you'll know why. It's that unconscious that rules the show unless we train it otherwise. And I want to give you 3 types of the brain here so you can understand this. I'm just checking questions. Delusioned and deflated. I totally get that, Caroline. I've been there myself in the last couple of years around a couple of things too. I really get it. But if you start to use these tools, you'll start to have a sense of how to get what you create without that disillusionment and that deflated feeling. So we have 3 types of our brains. And there's other things that work with our brain, which I'm going to explain. We have our conscious mind that is open and conscious and is saying things like, this is a blue drink bottle. I've got a cup of tea in my hand. My name is Lisa. Then we have a subconscious. Now this is fed up to the conscious, and the conscious feeds back. That's sort of more that daydreamy mind, you know, like we might drift off into thoughts and then we come back again to our conscious mind. That's the next level. It's a little bit of the sleepy mind, but it's not completely hidden. We can access it. We can go back and go, oh, what was I thinking about before? Oh, that's right. I need to go and buy a bottle of milk. Now, the tricky part of our mind is this unconscious part, and I've put that here on this slide, because our unconscious part is the part that is truly hidden. Unless you bring some awareness and tools, it is really hidden. And we wire in those first 7 years lots of patterns. And they are actually where we're viewing life from, where we're focusing from, where we oscillate from, where our energy is actually emanating from too. So we have these unconscious patterns, convictions, beliefs, points of views that are really limiting, that are actually running the show, that are ruling the show, that are ruling us. So that could be one of the reasons why you're not getting what you want, because you might be acting and pushing and forcing in your new business, but you have an unconscious pattern that you're a failure. Now, this has come up for me in the last 2 years. I had this big pattern come up about that I'm a failure. So, of course, that was putting blocks in the way of my business. And until I saw that, it was still operating and having me hustling and pushing and forcing action, trying not to be a failure, doing the opposite of failure, working really hard. Now I've shifted that and I'm looking at it differently, and I'm coming from a different energy and way of being as well with it. So that makes it different for me. But if you don't know the tools, and if you don't look more deeply, you are being ruled by the unconscious. You can be saying, I really want to lose weight. I'm going to go on a diet. But if you have an unconscious pattern that you don't deserve to lose weight, that you don't deserve health, and we have these weird points of views and unconscious patterns, then no matter what you do, you're going to slip back, okay? So we have these three main parts of our minds that operate, but it's the unconscious that is the strongest. Now, we create this stinking thinking that is not even here conscious, it is unconscious, okay? And it's a deja vu loop, not poop loop, but pretty much is. We constantly see proof of our limiting beliefs as well. So brains in theta for that first 7 years, we wire in these funny patterns, and it's all based on disappointment, lack, shame, hurt, being unsafe, anger, rage, frustration. We wire in those things before we wire in gratitude, before we wire in what's valuable about us and to us, before we wire in compliments and all those sorts of things. And guess what, my friend? We have an ego, and we have this filtering system which does more of it, and it tries to keep us safe and being right, and it's a negative bias. So if you look down at the bottom of this chart, it's not a bias that's based on what's great about us and valuable, but it's based on what's wrong. So we wire it in over these four main things. I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy. I'm fundamentally flawed, I'm not perfect. I don't have the resources, I'm lacking. I'm not capable. And underneath all of those is I don't belong, because of course, if you're not capable and your friend is, you'll think you don't belong with that person or that group. If you don't think you're good enough and there's someone else and you look at them and you go, wow, they're just an amazing person, you'll feel like you don't belong there as well. If you feel like you're fundamentally flawed and you're not perfect, but you see someone outside of you as perfect, then even though you're their friend, you'll have an underlying energy of, I don't really belong with them. Why do they like me? So we have this going on unconsciously, and yet we're consciously going, I want to do really well in my business. I want to create this new job. I want to make an amazing relationship with my husband or whatever, my children. I want to lose weight, but these patterns are underneath. And they are cray-cray, my friend. It's a deja vu loop. And then we have this filtering system and ego that keeps it in place, so we only see more of it. Our filtering system, our reticular activating system, and our amygdala bring us in more trauma. Their job is to show you where you're not safe, so they keep showing you that same pattern. It's like blinkers, and they'll keep showing you, hey, Stace, just going to let you in, my friend. You've already started, but you can catch up. Great to have you here. Hope you're in. With this filtering activating system that only shows you what you know, believe unconsciously or consciously up to now. but it's the unconscious that runs the show. So it's this filtering system that comes off this unconscious way of being, this unconscious consciousness, your level of consciousness, and this unconscious thinking you have that is stopping you from getting what you desire, my friend. And it's all about what you know and believe up to this point. There's nothing new. It's all the measurable of I was bad and wrong and I can't do maths. And when I was 5, this happened, and I measure myself up against other people. It's all closed. It's this closed loop. It's identifiable. The brain has already identified you as not being worthy, even if it's unconscious. So you try to go for this thing and it's unconsciously operating underneath and it's sabotaging you. It's all a big fat sabotaging system. So it's finite. It's all limited. There's nothing infinite about it. You can't go for other infinite possibilities when you're in this unconscious patterning. It's conclusionary, it's judgmental, it's labeling, it's negative, and it's what's wrong, and it's fear and lack based. So this could be a huge reason why you're not getting what you desire, is because of the unconscious patterning that runs the show. It creates our belief and filters through which and how we see the world and which way we see the world, okay? So it filters the way we see the world and the way we see us. This is a huge reason why most of us aren't getting what we desire. And we all have it. I still have areas too. I've shifted so much, but there's the odd area too. So our unconscious patterns, our filtering system, and then we have this ego that has to be right. This ego is not a part of the brain, but it's a way of being that we all have. If we don't wire our brain out of the ego and into our deep knowing and inner intelligence, it runs the show and it wants to be right. It's having you be right about being wrong. It's having you be right about that person's that way, or you're not good at this. It's having you be right about all that unconscious stuff that is limited and unkind to you. And guess what? It will fight for it. So someone will say something to you and you'll be like, no, I can't do that. I know I can't do that. And you'll be right about it instead of being, I wonder if I could be wrong here and actually maybe I could do that. So the ego keeps it in place too. And it creates a way of being, which is energetic. So this is really the key. We have this big unconscious patterning, an ego filtering system, amygdala, our default mode network, all these other brain things, which I'm not going to go too much into detail because it's really complex, but it creates a way of being. And that way of being is you as a human being, right? You as a human being. And you create a way of being which is energetic. It doesn't lie. It can't lie. That's why fake it till you make it doesn't work, okay? You can't fake your energy. You've got to shift your energy into a future way of being to get what you want now. Now, that's a story for another video because that's quite complex too. So it can't lie. It's pervasive. It's everywhere. It's all encompassing. Your energy isn't a little bit here and a little bit there. It's everywhere. It's actually infinite. And I can expand your energy out to be as infinite as the universe. That's how big it actually is. It's measurable now. They can measure your brain thoughts. They can measure your heart outside you. It's creative and responsive. So it's creating your reality from this unconsciousness, and it responds to the reality as well. But that response is driven from the brain too. So if you have a point of view that that person's not good, your energetic response will contract in, and then you'll drop your frequency, and then your brain pattern drops too. So it's all dropping at the same time and shifting, and you'll go into a lower space and a lower frequency very, very quickly because it's responsive and it's responding to how you respond. It's measurable now, like I said, and entangles, and that's actually going to be another video as well because it's a complex thing from quantum physics, but it entangles from another thing that matches your way of being. And I said it's expansive and everywhere, and it's quantum. This is the quantum physics, that part that is tiny and can't be seen by the naked eye. So we create this quantum field or morphogenic field, and everyone else has their own quantum field. And then there's a quantum field of this reality, and we're intermingling and entangling with everybody and everybody else. And again, that's a video for another day because it's quite complex. So I hope you're in space. I'm just going to check down here that there's nothing I need to worry about here. There's no chat telling me that you're not in. I hope you're in, honey. Okay, cool. So that is how it works. It's the way of being that is driven from the unconsciousness. So affirming positive statements, intentions, are not going to shift it. Great, Stace. Great to have you both here. This shows me how committed that you are to shifting your way of being today. So like I said, affirming positive statements and intentions can't shift your deep patterns or way of being. They're not going to shift this energetic frequency. So you can put an affirmation up. It'll calm you for a little bit, but long term, that unconscious pattern will come back. So we're still emanating a certain energetic frequency, regardless of how positive we try to be. And it doesn't lie, my friend. It doesn't lie. So that's why you're sitting in your head consciously going, no, I'm okay. No, I'm okay. I can do this. I can do this. But the sabotage is going underneath. You might force yourself to do it, but you'll still have the sabotage going on, and it's going to come up. It's going to create a certain thing to happen, which stops you. It's going to create an energy of fear or anger or rage, which might stop you, but it's going to do something. And when it stops you, just know that that is a gift, because it's like, okay, I can't go any further. I've hit a bit of a wall. I must have something unconsciously going on that is impacting my way of being. So it's always a gift, turning that problem into a possibility. So my friend, no matter how positive you're trying to be, your energy cannot lie. Now, check out this map of consciousness from David R. Hawkins. There's an amazing book called Power versus Force, which I recommend you read. Just going to have a quick swig of my drink. We can force action, like I said, but if your consciousness, your way of being is low, the level of consciousness you're at is low, that energy goes out into the quantum field and you can't actually create what you desire in that moment. Okay, because you're resonating at a certain frequency, and what's going to show up is more of that. So that brain is in a loop and your energy brings in more of that loop. Okay, so if you have a look at this chart here, the energetics of consciousness, you'll see when we're at peace, we're at a higher level. When we're enlightened, now that is when we're truly out of our head and in our inner intelligence, and we are in that. At certain times, we are in it. You know, when you're holding a baby and you look at them and you lose yourself in them, we're in this pure ultimate consciousness of enlightenment and peace. We might be meditating. I don't know what it is for you. You might have a way of doing this, and we might capture that moment for a few minutes. That's the highest, and it's an omega brain pattern, and we're expanded and we're peaceful. Okay, and then as we come down, you'll see those levels drop. We have neutrality at 250, which is better than anger, right? But we have to also release anger. So we might drop into anger and be 150, but by releasing it, it might bring us back to 600. So there is times when we have to go into that fear and anger and grief and release it, and that will help shift us back up as well. But what I'm talking about when we're just angry because we're responding out of those unconscious patterns, look where we are. We're just getting by. We're contracted in. Our energy is contracted in. Our brain pattern is dropping. We're looping in the same patterns all the time. And if we keep getting lower and lower and go into guilt and shame about that anger, then we're actually really, really suffering. Okay, so guilt and shame are the lowest because that's when we really are suffering. And we contract right in physically. We go into fight and flight, even our blood is racing to different parts of our body, but we've taken away from our brain, the normal function of our brain. So we can't think right, our body is getting into this frenetic state, we're in shame, we're in this awful feeling, which creates disease, which then creates disease. And guess what shows up? More of it, because that energetic resonance and frequency cannot lie. So you might be trying really hard to be positive. You've got goals and you're working really hard on them. And you might have to take 4 jobs like I did 2 years ago. I was working 4 jobs, right? But underneath it was some guilt You're not quite going to get the complete bliss and ease and joy. And even the goal that you reach, even if you reach it, you won't have complete satisfaction, because underneath it is running this guilt and shame. Oh, well, I got to where I wanted, but I didn't see my kids because I worked full jobs. Okay. So that might not be consciously what you're saying, but unconsciously that is running. And then you have this way of being that is low in any given moment. Then it's creating more of that showing up. So it's not technically the law of attraction, my friend. You're not attracting it. You're co-creating it with the energy of what's around you, with other people's quantum fields, with their morphogenic fields, and with this brain. So this brain and body and way of being is co-creating it. Okay, so I want you to look at one area right now. Choose an area. Well, I have a sip of my lovely turmeric tea. Choose an area that is frustrating you right now, where you're not expanded, where you're not in complete joy and love and allowance and peace. Choose an area. And I want you to look at that right now. Where are you right now with it? Have a look at that chart. Do you think it's fear that's driving you? Do you think it's grief that's driving you? Is it guilt or shame? Just checking the comments here. Getting things flowing. So you're not in flow, Caroline. Okay, so I want you to have a look at why that is. Go down that chart and have a look. Are you allowing where you are, or are you judging it? Are you peaceful while you're doing your work, even if you're not quite in flow? Or is there fear, anger, grief, apathy, like I just can't be bothered, I'm done? We've all been there before. Guilt or shame. Have a good look. This is great. We're having a look at what these girls are saying. Fearful and worried. Okay, so you can see fear is quite low. Okay, so guess what's showing up? That's why you're not in flow, and you won't get into flow until you shift out of the fear. So you need to keep looking at what's bringing the fear in. Look outside of you. What's bringing the fear in? Is it circumstances, do you think, or is it more the brain? What are you seeing outside of you that is fearful? Remember, it's all driven from the brain. So even if there's a pandemic, it is not the pandemic that makes us fearful. It's our response to it. Okay? It's our response to it. So have a look at how you can shift out of the fear. Now, I know you've got lots of strategies. Are you using them? Are you using those strategies to shift out of the fear? So now you know there's fear. Bring those strategies in. And if you don't have the strategies and you're watching this later, reach out to me, my friend, and jump on a free clarity call, start getting a couple of strategies, or maybe you want to work with me one-to-one. But I have all these strategies to support you to get that fear shifted and to get back up to peace. And I don't call it acceptance, but allowance and willingness. It could even just be neutrality you need to get to for now, right? Where you're not judging it. You are? Okay, keep going. Are you doing them regularly? Are you releasing the energy? So we need to release the energies of this fear and this anger and stuff too if we were angry. Are you releasing it? Are you going through that process of looking and uncovering and having a good look and seeing what's going on? Go back through all the tools again and have a look, and you will figure out what's going on, and you'll be able to ask for a new priority to show up and prioritize something different. So what are you desiring, my friend, that isn't showing up? Is it anger? Is it fear? Is it grief or apathy or guilt or shame that's showing up rather than those other things? So you can see the difference, can't you? We go into real suffering, our brain drops this frequency, and then we're bringing in more of the same, that co-creation. So that is why we are not getting what we want, okay? So we've done this. We've actually done this. We've just done this now. Here's the clue to why it hasn't shown up yet. Because you're in fear, you're in anger, You're in rage, you're in frustration, you're in self-judgment. And when I'm talking about anger, that could be at you. When I'm talking about guilt and shame, that is self-judgment. That is judgment of us. And it's the lowest frequency we can be in. Now, the other reason why you might not be where you are, and I haven't done a chart about this or a slide, is because it's a whole nother video, is you aren't choosing congruently with what's right for you. So Caroline, have a look at that. Where are you not flowing? Are you meant to be there? Is that the exercise you're meant to be doing? Is that the job you're meant to be doing? Is what you're doing truly congruent with you? Does it feel right for you? Because that might also be why you're not getting what you want, is because that isn't truly what's right for you, but your brain is saying it is. But in your deep inner knowing, your inner intelligence, there's this war going on where you deep down know it's not right for you, but your brain is still saying, let's do this, let's keep going. You have got this mismatch, and you're also not going to get to what you think you want because it's not what is really right for you. So that's the other reason. And that's going to be on another video, my friend. So start looking carefully and seeing, are you operating out of fear? Are you operating out of anger? Is it self-judgment, guilt and shame? Are you frustrating? Are you judging others? And see what shows up. Okay, that's why it's not working. Because you're in a survival energy, you're in a survival resonance. I would start asking, what else could I do that I love to do? What else could I do? Because we don't want to survive, we want to thrive. So start asking, what is next for me? And then keep going with that, but start bringing in something new. So we have to bring in a higher level of consciousness, and you're more likely to create it and to create it faster. So like I said, if you're not choosing what's right for you, it's not going to come anyway. We're not in a way that's healthy and brings you wellness and brings you joy with it. You might get a goal, but you're just like, no, it doesn't even mean anything to me, because you're not really congruent with it, right? But if there is something you're congruent with, like my business, and you're not quite there yet, you have to bring in that higher levels of consciousness, that joy, that peace, that bliss, that enlightenment, and lift yourself up, okay? But have a look first and see what's going on, and start to have a look at what would lift me up into those higher levels of consciousness. Is this what I really want to be doing? What makes me bring peace in and joy? What brings me peace? What brings me joy? And you'll instantly start to lift up that consciousness. What is it today that you could choose that would bring you in some joy? Can you drop something for 10 minutes and go and walk with your dog? That's going to bring up your level of consciousness anyway. That's going to bring up your vibration and frequency, and you'll shift your way of being. So that's how I would start. What can you bring in daily that's going to bring you peace, bliss, and joy, and lift you up into that higher level? That is the key, my friend. Bringing those things in and asking for a new reality is going to lift that frequency up and shift that unconsciousness, so you change the loop that you've been creating. And also, it's going to take you to look at those unconscious patterns. So if you want to reach out and do that, a deeper look, which is going to shift your way of being, but for now, get looking at what you can bring in that brings you joy and ease right now. Reach out and put the word bomb or clarity or DM me, get on a call, and let's start looking at how we can shift this level of consciousness up higher. That's why I'm here, my friend, is to support you. But I hope you've got something out of this. We are not going to truly get true joy and bliss and ease and peace with these unconscious patterns operating. We are not going to truly get what we desire, our goals, if we don't have a look at them and we don't shift this way of being. Any questions? It's not technically a coaching call. It's a call to get distinctions, but do you have any questions about what I've put on here now?